On Story, presented by Austin Film Festival. Welcome to a look behind the scenes of the creative process with some of the film industry's most prolific writers, directors, and producers, as well as a showcase of short films from the region's most promising filmmakers.
I have enjoyed movies about good guys and bad guys. I still do. And when Star Wars came out, I loved Star Wars. And I liked the James Bond pictures and everything. But I never felt comfortable writing about a character who killed a bunch of people and then went off and had breakfast and charmed some lady. It was so far from what my impression of life was that I couldn't write that. Well, all of a sudden I see Taxi Driver, which was a whole, it's hard for people now to imagine the impact that had on our generation. I mean, it is Notes from the Underground, and he treated it very much as Dostoevsky would, with the enormous irony and so on and so forth at the end of Killing, and it released me. It said, oh, you can write about that kind of stuff, because somehow I had permission from Paul Schrader.
Huh.
I used to say that where it came from was I read a wonderful novel by Glendon Swarthout, which Glendon Swarthout's son did the screen adaptation for Don Siegel, and they made this picture, The Shootist. Now, the movie The Shootist is a nice movie, and it's the Big Valentine. It's Jimmy Stewart and John Wayne together. Lauren Bacall's in it, right? Yeah. And Ron Howard plays the kid, the young boy. And it's a sweet Hollywood movie. The book by Glendon Swarthout was dark and tough and fierce, and that wasn't Ron Howard at the end of the picture. That was some young demon killer who'd just been unleashed on the world. So I found it a terrific novel, very ignored and underrated, but I thought it was good. And it was about this gunfighter who was dying, and I somehow, two things had happened. Now, I'd seen Taxi Driver. And so I had these two things that came together. This novel of this guy, I said, nobody's ever had a gunfighter who's afraid of dying, and yet he's the hero of the film. Yeah. They never bothered with that. I thought, this is a different way of looking at it. At the same time, I'd seen that most moving moment in Taxi Driver when Travis Bickle says, I just want to be like other people.
12 hours of work and I still can't sleep. Damn. Days go on and on. And they don't end. All my life needed was a sense of someplace to go. I don't believe that one should devote his life to morbid self-attention. I believe that someone should become a person like other people.
I began to think about, well, what would Travis Bickle be like if he was 40 and he'd got a couple of kids and so on? And just somehow I began to write this thing, Unforgiven, or it was at the time, it was called The Cut Whore Killings. And I don't do a lot of research, but I'd read a little bit. I'd also been tremendously influenced by True Grit, which was terrific. I loved the way the language was used in True Grit. So I started riffing off of that, and also I was reading a few historical events, and that's where the title comes from, The Cut Whore Killings. When you read these old accounts of what happened in the Old West, it's always about the Bar Creek shooting or some event cut around. It's described as some event, so I was trying for something historical.
This one actually got me in the door and got made, which was the exception to the rule. And that movie was called A Perfect World. I had two different scripts I was working on, two different ideas that I was just kind of outlining and working on and not breaking either one of them. And one of them was about an escaped convict and a little boy, and the other was about a Texas Ranger at the end of his days, right before and after the Kennedy assassination. And I also had an image in my mind of just something I wanted in a movie, and I couldn't explain it, and it was a little boy in a field with a Casper the Friendly Ghost outfit on. And that's hardly the stuff of, I'm going to write a movie about that, but that's where ideas come from. And thematically it spoke to me because it came from my childhood in Longview, and so that was always out there. And then somehow or other, all these stories kind of came together, and the Texas Ranger would be the one chasing them. And it's about someone running, someone chasing, and the person that's chasing not really sure if he wants to catch, the more he finds out about this person he's chasing.
question I think that Derek and I loved is what's a man's price? And in the short story, it's the bad guy and the good guy sitting in a hotel room, and the good guy is supposed to take the bad guy to the train, and the bad guy's saying, I'll pay you not to. And that's it. Like, that's where the movie comes from. What's that guy's price?
What are you gonna do with your $200 now, Dan? Now that the rains are coming.
People money, Wade. That drought left me in the hole.
Well, what do you think about double that amount? You can pay your debts, buy 100 more cows, build a new barn.
Well, hey, you reckon I'm gonna do that?
Just lay down your gun and let me walk out the door. It's worth $400 to me.
Is that what you reckon my price is?
No. No, I reckon it's 1,000.
I think for Yuma, the idea of remaking that came from the belief that there was a great idea. There was an Elmore Leonard short story originally, and there's a great idea in that short story, and they made a movie in the 50s that had that idea, and then they built back from that, and they put a first act in, and we thought that it needed a middle act, that the original movie was missing a whole section in the middle and missing a relationship. So we wanted to remake something that, not to remake it because we loved the original, we wanted to remake it because we thought the original was the basis for a good movie that we could add on to.
I had never been to film school or anything, and so Clint Eastwood became my film school. He allowed me to be on the set, and to my knowledge, it's kind of the first time he had done that. Not that he was really against writers being on the set, he just is very pragmatic and didn't see the use in it, and why would we pay to bring a writer out and sit when I'm just going to shoot the movie and he's not going to have anything to do. But I somehow convinced him that that I wouldn't be in the way, and I wouldn't obstruct anything, and that I had a lot to learn and I wanted to learn, and I wouldn't ask too many questions.
My understanding, and I never had the discussion with him, but I've since heard, and also Barry Spikings once told me of a discussion with Clint in which Clint had rewritten the whole script and then decided it was better the way it was. And in fact, the irony is, and this goes to one of my feelings about script writing anyway, is a script's finished when you can't do any better, right? And maybe 2 years later, you'll suddenly see how to do better. I had looked at Unforgiven as time passed, and when you read your own work, what happens is it's like a roller coaster ride. You read it, and it's god-awful, and you're so embarrassed. And maybe 6 months later or something, you pick it up, and what you're picking up is this god-awful piece of shit. And you get a surprise. It's not as bad as I thought. In fact, it's kind of good. Whoa, I wrote this, right? Okay, 6 months pass, you pick up this wonderful script you wrote, and it's a piece of shit again. Because so much has to do with it, and this is true when you go to movies, and this is what makes some movies successful and some not. What you bring into it is hugely important. So with Unforgiven, I picked it up a couple of times and found it unbearably slow and tedious and not the way movies were and everything. And I thought, and I went in specifically to the jail scenes where little Bill has got English Bob in the jail and everything. I went in there and tried to make it move faster, tried to get some of that crap out of there, that already talking.
But if the other fellow is quicker and fires first,
then he'll be hurrying and he'll miss. Look here. That's about as fast as I can draw and aim and hit anything. More than 10 feet away. Unless it's a barn.
but if he doesn't miss,
then he'll kill you. Yeah, that's why there's so few dangerous men around like old Bob and like me. It ain't so easy to shoot a man anyhow, you know, especially if some bitch is shooting back at you. I mean, that'll just flat rattle some folks.
I felt as I did it, it's getting worse and worse. It wasn't getting better and better, right? And which, as I say, is my rule is, if it's getting worse and worse, quit, right? Yeah. Don't go any further. Well, the funny thing is, I think that there's a similar sensibility that unlike in the movie business, people just keep writing this stuff and more money gets changed hands and there's just an inevitable move and things frequently get worse and worse and worse. Well, he had the forbearance to realize, wait, this was better before. And the irony is, he called me on the phone and he asked for 2 little rewrite things that and with my, I'm a prickly guy and obnoxious, and I got a bad reputation, but I was so intimidated by Clint, I just said, yes, sir. and even on the phone, I'd never met him. And I wrote this stuff and I faxed it to him. So then when he had me come over and see a cut of the movie, it was exactly the way I'd written it originally. And I said, oh, what happened to those scenes I rewrote for you? And he said, and the interesting thing about the scenes is, as so often happens, I hated the idea at first, but found actually it worked better than I expected, which is, and that's one of the hardest parts about screenwriting is people give you input and you resist it a lot, and then you do what they say and maybe it's better than you thought, but then what happens is you've now lost your perspective totally. Which way was better? I don't know anymore. Well, the funny thing is, the beauty about Clint was he said, it was better in the first place, and he threw out the rewrites. And I had actually thought, well, they weren't bad, right? So he has a wonderful sense of stuff, he's rock solid. I mean, he's not, he doesn't blow around in the wind.
No, he does not.
No.
I wrote this film as a Western because I really wanted to play with the ideas of the archetypical Western characters, the man in black versus the man in white, the love interest, and there's a Native American character. But at the same time, I wanted to kind of thwart or play with the audience's expectations and give the audience an updated kind of Western experience. So recently I was at New Directors, New Films at MoMA and saw a film by Rachel Sungari called Attenberg, and afterwards she brought up this idea that her films were all dealing with this science fiction of the past, and I thought, wow, that really makes sense with the film that I made here, in the sense that it's a story that's not really rooted in any specific time or place, but it's a Western with definitely science fiction elements. I'm a Northerner by trade, or I'm a Northerner, so I kind of had an idea that I would end up back in the North again. And I thought before I left Texas, I really wanted to make a Western because it's Texas, and it feels very Western, and the landscape is very Western. And the landscape was a big part of this film. And really, more than anything, I just wanted to make a film and just have fun and play with the ideas and not to think too heavily about what I was trying to do or what I wasn't trying to do. I just wanted to make an epic feeling film. Coming up is my short film Western. Thank you for watching.
Where is he?
He's gone. So you can just leave us be.
I'll find him myself.
Early this morning, an explosion rocked the second floor. One guy was saved, including one James Higgins, who is considered armed and dangerous. His whereabouts are currently unknown, but authorities believe
We should have killed him when we had a chance.
Persephone?
His tracks head north. I'll get my gun. I thought that might get your attention. You surprised to see me again? You know what today marks? Yeah. You never were much a man of words, were you told? You didn't really think you could beat me, did you? Fuck you. I guess you'll stay a man a little while.